Are you able to hear me, or are you able to hear me very clearly? Okay, so the microphone, everything is fine. Good, very good. So maybe we'll start the class. I think we have more than a lot now. So I think we can start the class now. There are 136 students already. Okay, so I'm using a different board today. I'm not using Learnity PCB. This is what is called Google's Jamboard. There is a good option here that I can export the whole board as PDF. So I'll do that later. So it's easy for me. I'll be using this board. So yeah, maybe we can stop chatting for now. Are you able to see the chat? Yeah, I can. I think you are able to see me also using the chat. 2 classes also physics, sir. Please tell me. No, this class is physics. At 3:30, Murli sir will take over, and I don't know what he will teach. He may teach maths, chemistry, or physics. Yeah, good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon to you all. Parallax error. Kanish asks for parallax error. Okay, so I'll put that on the board also. Manvi asks, a block of mass 5 kg is on a rough horizontal surface at rest. Now a force of 24 Newton. Come on, Manvi. You're talking about forces which we have not yet started. This is not a good question right now. We will learn to do these questions in the chapter forces and friction, Manvi. Do not worry about it. When we come there, when we arrive at that chapter, you will know how to do it. What is resolution of vector? We are going to do it today, Vikasini. Resolution of vector is something that we will be doing today. Okay, there was a negative impulse question in exam, sir. It should not have been. There was a negative impulse question in the exam. It should not have been. Okay. So yeah. See, listen. See, there might be some questions initially. There might be some questions out of portions announced for the test. Do not worry about that. All that. Mark such questions. Try to solve them when the chapter is taught. See, an exam is basically just another class session where you can learn something. There might be some questions which should not have been asked. There might be some questions which is in the portion, but you cannot answer them. So you will find all kinds of questions in the test. So do not worry about them. Learning ultimately is the point of the tests and the classes. Okay, see what we are learning out of it. And if you have done some, if you have answered something and you were not given marks in the test and all, you know that you have done it correctly. You have not been given marks. Do not worry about it. Just know that your work is correct, and just keep it with you. That's all. Do not worry about such marks and all. These marks do not matter a lot. Okay, what matters is ultimately in the 12th public exam or in other competitive exams how we are doing. That is most important. So concentrate on what you're learning. That's all. Make sure what you're learning is right. How do you make sure that you are learning something that is right? Just do not believe everything that I'm saying is correct. Not just me, any teacher for that matter. Just do not believe that whatever they are teaching is correct. You will have to go back home. No, I mean, read from the textbooks or other reference books that you have. Please do that. Do not believe them to be true also. See, we have a sense of reasoning. Human beings are given that kind of an ability now. We have a sense of reasoning. Try to reason. Try to find reason in what somebody is saying. If the reason seems right, agree with it. Otherwise, do not. Keep asking questions. Unless you ask questions, you will not get answers. Okay. Riju Anand asks, what is angular frequency? Angular frequency is nothing but the angle covered per unit time. Okay, again, we have not done it till now. Angular frequency is angle per unit time. Think about it like that. Angle covered per unit time. It is similar to angular speed, if you knew that. I have a doubt in the third question of yesterday's homework. Can you please do? Yeah, we have it in the board. We will do that. Okay, so I think, yeah, we have seen enough chat. We will start the class now. So bye. Sailesh, Young's modulus. Later, Sailesh, it is in the part 2 book of the physics, 11th physics textbook. So don't worry about it. Can you please say or explain about parallax method, sir? Yeah, I'll be doing today. Okay. All right, listen. Triangle inequality. Okay. Triangle inequality is what says, like you have learned in your younger classes. Triangle inequality basically says this. If you have a triangle and it has 3 sides, A, B, C, Triangle inequality basically says that C can never be more than A plus B. That's all, very simple. Or it says that A plus B is always greater than C. It's not even greater than or equal to, it's always greater than, right? Strictly greater than. Sum of any two sides of a triangle is always greater than the third side. I can also say B plus C is greater than A and C plus A is greater than B. See, for example, if some person starts from this point A, he goes on a straight line and he reaches a point B. Let us say the distance covered by him or the displacement achieved by him is A. Let us say he continues on the same straight line and goes to C, exactly same straight line, he goes to point C. Let us say the displacement of him now is B. What is the total displacement now? The total displacement now is A plus B, is it not? Because he did not change direction. Distance and displacement will be same. So the total displacement is A plus B. Now, if we had started from A and he went to some other point, say B dash, instead of B, he went to B dash, but he came back to C only. Now the displacement here is small a dash and displacement here is small b dash. What is his total distance traveled? A dash plus b dash. But what is his total displacement achieved? It is still from A to B or A to C only, which is probably again A plus B. Which do you think is more here? Is distance more or displacement more? Obviously, displacement is lesser than distance, right? So the magnitude of displacement is less than the distance traveled by the object. Always it is. Okay. In this case, distance is equal to A plus B. Magnitude of displacement is also A plus B. Here, displacement is equal to D. There will never be a case where the displacement achieved in a time interval is more than the distance covered in the time interval. There will never be a case. So displacement is always going to be less than or equal to, I mean magnitude of displacement vector. I could simply say yes, no problem at all. Okay. So magnitude of displacement is always going to be less than or equal to distance covered. Okay. So in any given triangle, if you have this point is A and if you have this point as B, and a person goes from A to B like this, or a person goes from A to B like this, sum of displacements is this, A plus B. But you write it as magnitude of A bar plus magnitude of B bar. Okay, this sum. The displacement, overall displacement is nothing but C. This is the overall displacement of the object when it goes from A to B. Magnitude of C bar. Or you could say magnitude of A bar plus B bar, because by triangle law, you know that is the resultant's magnitude. So magnitude of A bar plus B bar is always going to be less than or equal to magnitude of A bar plus magnitude of B bar. Did you understand this statement? Do you understand that statement, particular statement there? This one, magnitude of A bar plus B bar is always less than or equal to magnitude of A bar plus magnitude of B bar. Okay, meaning any side of a triangle is always smaller or equal to sum of the other two sides. That is called triangle inequality. Hence proved. Just by diagram we have proved it, nothing else, right? We already know this. So if you want to write this in terms of vectors, what do you write? Magnitude of A bar plus magnitude of B bar is greater than magnitude of A bar plus B bar. Hence proved. Done. Finished. So how to prove it analytically? Okay, how to prove it analytically? We have done this using a triangle. This is a diagrammatic way of proving it. How to prove it analytically? This is simple proof. Check this out. Okay, I think red will be better. See, we derived an equation yesterday. Magnitude of A bar plus B bar is equal to, we derived an equation yesterday, root of A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta. Okay. For a particular value of A and B, the value of magnitude of A bar plus B bar only depends on theta, isn't it? Because A and B are given, they are particularly given, but theta can be variable, let us say. Then the answer for magnitude of A bar plus B bar will depend on theta. And what is the maximum value of cos theta? Maximum value of cos theta is basically is equal to 1. So when cos theta becomes maximum, this also becomes maximum. So the maximum of magnitude of A bar plus B bar must be equal to what? Maximum of magnitude of A bar plus B bar is when cos theta is equal to 1. So if you put cos theta equal to 1 in this equation, what do you get? Root of this will become 1. So you'll get root of A square plus B square plus 2AB. But you know, by algebra, A square plus B square plus 2AB is nothing but A plus B whole square. Square root of A plus B whole square is nothing but A plus B. That's all. When cos theta becomes 1, the square root whole thing simply reduces to A plus B. You can write A plus B as magnitude of A bar plus magnitude of B bar. Okay. So the maximum value of magnitude of A bar plus B bar is nothing but magnitude of A bar plus magnitude of B bar. What does it mean? It means this thing here, magnitude of A bar plus B bar, cannot be more than this. Is it not? Maximum of magnitude of A bar plus B bar cannot be more than magnitude of A bar plus magnitude of B bar. Hence proved. So that is the analytical way of proving it. You don't have to use a diagram here. We just use the formula, and based on the formula and some trigonometry in algebra, we are able to prove it. Understood? So that is the proof for the third question from yesterday. Some of you are chatting, what's happened there? Voice is lagging. Maybe I am talking too fast for the network. Some of you raised hand. Yeah, so yeah, ask here. Your voice is not clear here. Clear. Is my voice clear now? It's not clear? Okay, so maybe the issue is with the slave, not the master. See, I am the master here, meaning this computer is the master here. I am being the server. I think the problem is with the connections there, I think. Okay, I'm just assuming. Ashwin, should we need to take notes of this? I would advise you to always take notes. Never sit in a class idle, as simple as that. Never sit in a class idle. Do not just listen to a class. Always listen and write some notes. That way, see, I'll tell you what happens if you take notes. When you're taking notes, you are giving work to your hand. Okay, there is something called in psychology, there's something called muscle memory. I think if the word is not right, pardon me, but there is something called muscle memory. When you write homework at home, even if you are watching TV or listening to some music, if you write homework, if you repeat something, always writing something, then it's like hand-eye coordination concept. Okay, so even if you are not actively thinking about that concept, your hand will take you with the answer. It's like riding a bike in your town. The town which is very familiar to you, you don't have to think much about the route. The bike will take you. Your mind will take you. You don't have to think much about it that way. Okay. So yes, I am trying to be as loud as possible, and I'm sitting in a closed room. Is there an echo? Okay. All right. So I mean, we cannot waste time on that. So try to listen as hard as possible. Try to concentrate as hard as possible. If I'm being not very loud, please increase your volume. Or maybe use headphones or something. Okay, sorry about that. We cannot sit on that for a long time. Okay. So anyway, so that is the first question asked today. That is the third question of yesterday's homework. The second question of yesterday's homework is this: magnitude of A bar plus B bar is equal to magnitude of A bar is equal to magnitude of B bar. Then what is the angle between A bar and B bar? Okay, so the given question is magnitude of A bar is equal to magnitude of B bar is equal to magnitude of A bar plus B bar. This is given. I am supposed to find angle between A bar and B bar, theta equal to what? Okay. Now, we have the formula of magnitude of A bar plus B bar. We can use that formula to start with. But then anyway, they have given you magnitude of A bar equal to magnitude of B bar equal to magnitude of A bar plus B bar. But what all these three equal to, that is not given. They are equal to each other, but what value is there? That's not given. So I will assume that value as k. Nothing wrong. If they have not given it, it probably is not needed. That's what it means. Okay, but I will assume its value to be k. Magnitude of A bar equal to k. Magnitude of B bar is equal to k. Magnitude of A bar plus B bar is equal to k. Then what is theta? Now I have a formula. Magnitude of A bar plus B bar equal to square root of A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta. Okay. Now we know that this is k. Magnitude of A bar plus B bar is nothing but k. So this is k. This is equal to square root of A is k, k square plus b is k, so k square plus 2 into k into cos theta. Theta we have to find. Okay, this is equal to square root of, this is 2k square, and there is already a 2k square here. So I have a 2k square plus 2k square cos theta, which means I will take it as common like this. K is equal to square root of 2k square into 1 plus cos theta. So I'll basically just square on both sides. I can do that actually. So k square is equal to 2k square into 1 plus cos theta. Okay, just a second. See, this step where I'm doing squaring on both sides. Okay, squaring on both sides is some operation that I'm doing here at this step. I should not be doing it. This is not a mathematically correct thing to do. But in this question, I can do it. I'll tell you why. Why can't you do squaring on both sides? Because if you have a linear equation x is equal to 7, what is the solution of the equation? There's only one solution, which is x equal to 7. If I square on both sides, I get x square equal to 49. Now this is a quadratic equation for which there are two solutions. So by doing squaring on both sides, I am increasing the degree of the equation. I am increasing the number of solutions. So that is not exactly a correct mathematical way. Okay. But in this question, I am squaring on both sides, but I am squaring something that is k. K is a magnitude of vector which can never be negative. So it doesn't matter. Okay. So even if I am introducing a new negative thing, you know that it can be discarded. So that is why I am squaring. So it will not be a problem. So anyway, I am squared. K square and k square get cancelled, leaving 1 here. I can bring this 1 to the 2 to the left hand side, become 1 by 2. So 1 by 2 is equal to 1 plus cos square theta. This implies cos square theta is equal to cos square theta equal to 1 by 2 minus 1 now. Oh, sorry. I made a mistake. No, it's not cos square theta, this is cos theta. Sorry. So it is 1 plus cos theta. 1 by 2 equal to 1 plus cos theta. So cos theta would be equal to minus 1 by 2. When cos theta equal to minus 1 by 2, you know that it is equal to 120 degree. So for anyone who answered 120 degree, good on you. For anyone who answered 60 degree, small mistake. For anyone who did not do this homework at all, bad, not impressed. Okay, so understood the answer. So that is the solution for the second question in the homework from yesterday. Okay, now let us try to look at an alternate solution. Diagrammatic way. So in with vectors, no, there's always a couple of ways to do it. An analytical way like this or an alternate diagrammatic way. Diagrammatically, what they are saying, you see, by triangle of vector addition, we know the magnitude of sum of two vectors is nothing but third side of a triangle, is it not? Magnitude of sum of two vectors is basically the third side of the triangle, closing side of the triangle. What they have essentially told here is the length of one side is equal to length of the second side and is also equal to length of the third side. What kind of a triangle is that? It is basically an equilateral triangle. I should be able to identify that from the question. Otherwise, don't do this alternate method. That's all. Okay. If you can identify that from the given question, then you can do it. Otherwise, do not worry about doing it. So magnitude of a side, magnitude of another side, magnitude of the third side, they're all apparently equal. They're all equal. It means basically you are dealing with an equilateral triangle. So if this is A bar, so you are adding A bar plus B bar. No. So A bar and B bar should be successively drawn. So if this is A bar, B bar should be successive to it. So this might be B bar. See, A bar and B bar are successively drawn. Then the closing side is nothing but A bar plus B bar. So this vector here is the A bar plus B bar. So this is A bar plus B bar. Understood or not? Did you understand how I drew the diagram here? We have been given magnitude of A bar equal to magnitude of B bar equal to magnitude of A bar plus B bar. But from triangle law, we know that magnitude of A bar plus B bar is nothing but the third side of a triangle for which the two sides are A bar and B bar, which are successively drawn. Okay. Now all three sides are equal as in the question. So you are supposed to draw an equilateral triangle. And then in the triangle, you have to assign arrow marks and appropriately name them A bar, B bar, etc. You cannot randomly put A bar, B bar, random directions and all that. Okay. A bar, B bar must be successively drawn and give them the names A bar and B bar. A bar plus B bar would be the the closing side of the triangle. Okay. So now this is the triangle. Now the question is what? Theta equal to what? Theta is the angle between A bar and B bar. What is angle between A bar and B bar? You know this angle is 60 degree because it's an equilateral triangle. You know that this angle is 60 degree. But 60 degree is not the angle between A bar and B bar because they are successfully drawn. To find the angle between two vectors, you need to have them co-initially or co-terminally. So this would be the angle, required angle between A bar and B bar, which is equal to 120 degree. So that is your answer. Okay, that is an alternate way of doing it. Okay, now in chat, somebody asked from here, if cos theta is equal to minus 1 by 2, then I can say theta equal to 240 degree also. In third quadrant also cos theta is negative only, no? So why can't I say angle between two vectors is 240 degree? Why should I say 120 degree? Good question. But yesterday we saw one thing, man. When I draw two vectors co-initially, A bar and B bar, the smaller angle between them is what is the angle between two vectors. Angle between two vectors is defined as the smaller angle between two vectors drawn co-terminally or co-initially. When I say smaller angle, how can it be more than 180 degree? So remember, theta, which is angle between two vectors, angle between any two vectors, whatever two vectors. Angle between two vectors theta can never be less than 0 or can never be, or can never be more than 180 degree. Listen, okay, carefully. Maybe we did not say it explicitly yesterday, but this is what it means. Angle between two vectors cannot be less than 0 and it cannot be more than 180 degree. What is the smallest angle between two vectors? 0. Okay, vectors in same direction. What is the biggest angle between two vectors? 180 degree. Vectors in opposite direction. You cannot have vectors aligned with any more angle than that. Understood, ma? Okay, so good. Yeah. So that is the second question. So analytically, I did not do squaring method. I took +1 cos theta. Yeah, you can do that. No problem. See, methods can differ. No issues. Don't worry. Ashwin, magnitude of A bar plus magnitude of B bar is more than magnitude of A bar plus B bar. How, sir? Please explain. I'll export the whole thing as PDF and share it on Google Classroom. Please go and check it. We already did it in the first slide. Why can't it be more than 180 degree? I just told. Assign some values for A and B. Please explain, sir. Assign some values. Okay, so fine. See, in the first slide, we are going back to first slide. If I move from here to here, 3 meters, and if I move in the same direction, 4 meters, what is the total displacement? 7. If I did a 3 meter displacement and I did a 4 meter displacement in some other direction, this resultant cannot be more than 7. Okay, if I did a displacement 3 meter this way and I made a displacement in the opposite direction 4 meter this way, okay, so my displacement would be from here to here only, which is how much? 1 meter. My displacement, overall displacement cannot be less than difference. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say here is magnitude of A bar plus B bar cannot be less than the difference between their individual magnitudes. I am putting an overall modulus because it is difference, bigger minus smaller. Magnitude of A bar plus B bar cannot be more than magnitude of A bar plus magnitude of B bar. Both of them are called triangle inequality only. Okay, in younger classes, the triangle inequality, as you have learned, is this. Sum of any two sides is always more than the third side. Difference between any two sides is always less than the third side. These two are the statements for triangle inequalities. If you do not have, if you don't remember triangle inequality, please go read on it. Go to Wikipedia, go to Google, search on triangle inequality. I have told you a technical term. Go search on it. Read from online or some younger yesterday class textbooks. Please do that. Okay. Not a very difficult concept to understand. Angle between two angles, vectors maybe, is the smallest angle between vectors or largest between them. It is confusing them. What is confusing in that? I keep telling smallest angle, that's all. It's never largest angle. Maybe you are getting confused about this. If this vector is a bar and this vector is b bar, then if this angle is, say for example, if this angle is theta, okay, angle between a bar and b bar is not theta. Angle between a bar and b bar should always be measured when they are drawn co-initially. A bar here up to this, b bar from here, they are not co-initial. They are drawn successively, right? In such a situation, if you look at the smaller angle, that is not what I'm meaning. I need you to draw the vectors first co-initially. See, a bar can be extended further. This is also a bar only. Now this a bar and this b bar are co-initial. In this situation, the smaller angle between them is this. The larger angle between them is this. Now when the vectors are drawn co-initially, then the smaller angle is called angle between the vectors. What is co-initial? What do you mean what is co-initial? Collinear, same line. Coplanar, same plane. Cooperative, similar operation, doing similar operation. What is co? Are you new to that word co? The prefix co? Co means what? Something that is same. Co-initial means what? Same initial point. If you draw vectors with same initial point, they are co-initial vectors. If you draw vectors with same terminal point, they are co-terminal vectors. Kaushik, voice is breaking because I'm speaking very fast, I guess. Yeah, I'll slow down. Devdarshan, but you say that we should extend the angle and then find 180 minus theta. That's not always. That is not always. Okay, I'll draw some situations. You guys tell me the angle between two vectors. Okay, a bar, b bar, 60 degree. First question. You tell me the question number and angle. What is the angle between a bar and b bar? In first question, what is angle between a bar and b bar? In first question, what is angle between a bar and b bar? Now, one of you says 120 degree. Who's that? Raghavendra, why do you think it's 120 degree? How do we check for angle between two vectors? The two vectors must be drawn co-initially, and the smaller angle between them would be angle between vectors. Right? Yeah, Raghavendra, so you understood. So fine. First question. Second question. What is angle between two vectors? Second question. Angle between two vectors in the second question. Kanish says 60 degree. Why? Kanisha, Ashwina. Ashwin. Ashwin says 60 degree. Why do you think so, Ashwin? Array, my voice is not breaking here. I am taking a small break for you to answer. Yes, in the second question, angle between the vectors is 120 degree. Why? Because they are not co-initial. They are also not co-terminal. They are drawn successively. So I have to extend a bar, or I can extend b bar also. My issue, my convenience, whatever it is. Okay. I can extend b bar like this. Okay. So now this is also b bar, same direction, same magnitude. This is also b bar. Now a bar and b bar are co-terminal. Now there are two angles between these two, this one and this bigger one. Now the smaller one will be the answer. This is the angle between two vectors. How do you calculate that? 60 and this are a straight pair. So this would be 180 minus 60 degree, which will be equal to 120 degree. Okay. Co-initial. We should extend A bar. A bar also you can extend, your wish, whatever it is. Third one. This is a perfect square. Okay. This is a perfect square. What is the angle between A bar and B bar? Multiplied by 2, such things I never spoke about. Who's answering that? Angle multiplied by 2, such things I have never told. This question is a square question. Angle between A bar and B bar is 90 degree. How, sir? This is 90 degree. Is that why it is 90 degree? See, this is A bar and this is B bar. They are drawn successively. So I have to extend A bar. So this would be A bar, new A bar. A bar and B bar are still, and now they are co-initial. So this angle would be the angle between those two. But that is also 90 degree. So here 180 degree minus 90 degree is being 190 degree again. So that's not a big deal. Yesterday's question was based on that only. First question, I think. In the first question, I had said angle between A bar and B bar was 90 degree. And there were some questions based on 3A bar minus 2B bar magnitude, etc. Is it not? So therefore, there also you could use the angle theta equal to 90 degree, whether it is positive, plus or minus. Okay, so that was not confusing there. Because it is 90 degree, it's a tricky kind of a question. Okay, what is the angle between B bar and C bar? Angle between B bar and C bar is also 90 degree. Yes. Angle between B bar and C bar is also 90 degree. But B bar and C bar are co-terminal. Doubt. Okay, doubt. Just tell me whether I am correct. To find angle between vectors, we should make them co-interior, co-initial or co-terminal and find the shorter angle. Yes. That is what I have been shouting. Yes, Devadarshan, that is right. What you said. Okay. I did not do anything to the microphone. I am not sure why it is being lowered. I think it's all fine. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on, man. Come on, we have to do more. Was there any other question from yesterday? Doubts? Parallax method. Okay, so somebody asked what is parallax method, parallax error, etc. Okay. Please check on Wikipedia or Google what parallax means. Okay. Parallax means a different view, I think. Okay. Parallax usually means a different view. When you want to look at something, you have to look at it from directly above. That is the correct way of looking at something. And if you don't do that, you are creating a parallax. Say you might have seen this kind of pictures like that is sold in markets. These photo frames are there, like God's pictures or some scenery pictures or something. But those pictures, I think they are called holograms. I'm not if I'm right. They're called holograms. Have you seen them? Have you seen a hologram or a holographic picture? They may call it that. See what it is necessarily. Okay, if you have bought H.C. Verma textbook, right? If you have bought the H.C. Verma book, you will see that hologram right on the cover page, just for the authenticity. If the hologram is there, that book is authentic, like that. Okay. Anyway, hologram is that kind of a sticker which would look different when you look at it from different angles. Okay. It is based on the concept of parallax. There are different layers of pictures that is exposed on one another. So when you look at it from this, it looks different. When you look at it from here, it looks different. When you look at it from here, it looks different. You might have seen some screen protectors on mobile phones or laptops. You might have seen some screen protectors. They are called privacy protectors. Okay. So on a laptop screen, if you install this film protector, when seen from directly above, you can see the screen. If someone tries to sneak into the picture, like if someone wants to look at the picture from sideways, they can't see it. That is also based on hologram or parallax method. Okay, so parallax is basically something that is defined as a different view. And because of a different view, because of not looking at something from directly above, if there is an error in measurement, you call that parallax error. Okay, error that arises, due to wrong positioning of eye. Okay, error that arises due to wrong position of eye is called parallax error. Okay, so do you think it's a human error or an instrumental error? Tell me the classification. Parallax error is dash kind of an error. Is it a human error or an instrumental error? Yes, of course it is human error. It is something that you can avoid or prevent. Okay, so if there is a line, you want to measure its length. So this is the initial point, this is the last point. Okay, maybe this is the last point. You want to measure the length of the line from here to here. So what you will do, you'll use a ruler or a scale where you will try to match this division with 0 and see what this is matching with. Is it not? This is actually the measurement. And at this measurement, you're supposed to look at this measurement from here. If you try to look at it from here, maybe there is a chance that you are actually looking at this, right? Are you able to understand? Or if you try to match from this direction, from here, parallelly, you might be actually looking at this reading. If you look at it from this side, from this direction, you might be looking at this reading. Is it not? So when you look at this reading from either side, like this is a directly above position. If you don't position yourself here and you look at it from here or here, then there is a possibility of some error happening. That is what is called as parallax error. Understood? So that is the concept of parallax error. But what is parallax method? Parallax method is different. Okay, so parallax method is something that you use. You're trying to put that observation, no, that view observation. Different view gives you a different perspective. That nature of view, difference in view, we are trying to use it for an advantage. Parallax method. Using parallax method, I might be able to do some approximation on some distances. Okay, so this is it. Before doing what is parallax method, let us say there is a circle. Let us say there is a circle of radius r. Okay, I can draw another radius here. This is also of length r only. Okay, this is also of length r only. If the angle subtended by the angle between both the radii is theta, then the length of this arc, okay, length of this arc is given by L is equal to R into theta. This is a very simple or famous formula, but the only thing is theta must be written in radians, not degrees. Never. Theta must be written in radians. Have you all studied radians? Oh, so radians you know, good. So arc length L is equal to R into theta. This is a common formula. Length of a circular arc that subtends an angle theta at the center is given by L is equal to R theta. You can check it out. What is the angle subtended by a semicircle at the center? What is the angle subtended by semicircle at the center? Say the answer in radians. Tell the answer in radians. What is angle subtended by the semicircle at center? Pi. Exactly. Yes. So angle subtended by semicircle at the center is pi. Then what will be the length of semicircle? R into pi. Understood? So the length of the semicircular arc is given by pi r. What is angle subtended by the whole circle, complete circle at the center in radians? (360° or 2 pi radians? Yeah, right, exactly. So the angle subtended by the complete circle at the center is 2 pi radians. So what will be the circumference of a circle? It is nothing but the length of the arc that subtends how much angle? 2 pi. That is why it is 2 pi r. Understood or not? So In fact, radius definition comes from this. Okay, if the length of the arc is equal to radius of the circle, then what is equal to theta? If length of the arc of a circle is equal to its radius, what is theta then? Exactly, 1 radian. That is the definition of 1 radian, in fact. Okay, that is the definition of 1 radian. 1 radian, define 1 radian. 1 radian is the angle subtended by, okay, 1 radian is the angle subtended by an arc of a circle which is equal to radius of the circle at the center. This angle will be 1 radian. Understood? Understood this or not? Did you understand? Did you all understand this concept? That of feather. L is equal to r theta concept you understood? No. Now, if you take a very small portion of a circle, this is a big circle. If you take a very small portion, okay, this is L. This is radius r. This is radius r. Angle subtended at the center is theta. Okay, now we know that L is equal to r theta always, where theta is in radians. Never forget that. L equal to r theta is only correct if theta is in radians. If theta is in degrees, then L is equal to r into theta into pi by 180 degree. Okay, this would be the correct formula then, but we are not worried about it. Theta L is equal to r theta is only correct when theta is in radians. Okay, now if theta tends to 0, what does it mean? If this angle is extremely small, then the circular arc of length L can be approximated. The circular arc of length L can be approximated as a straight line of length L. Okay, if theta is very small, theta is small means what? The angle of, you might have come across different units of angle, degree, minute, second, etc. If the angle is in the order of magnitude of seconds, it's only a few seconds, then you can say that L is almost a straight line only. Okay, so basically, that tells you that if you are a point, okay, then at a very large distance, say r, if there is a small length L and the small length subtends an angle, very small angle theta at u, then you can use the formula L is equal to r theta to a very good approximation. Okay, L equal to r theta should not work here actually, because L is a straight line. L equal to r theta should not work here actually, because L is a straight line. However, if theta is very small, or r is very large, or L is negligible compared to r, in any of these conditions, okay, L is very small compared to r, or theta tends to 0, like that. Under these conditions, you can write L is equal to r theta, or you could say r is equal to L by theta. So where is it useful? Where can you use this concept? Say for example, this is the moon. Okay, let us say this is the moon, and this is somewhere the earth, and you are on the earth here, let us say. Okay, if you know the diameter of the earth, of the moon, sorry, if you know the diameter of the moon, then you should be able to find the distance between the moon and the earth. If this is r, and if this is also r, if you can somehow calculate this angle, then you can say d is equal to r theta. Understood? Or another concept, yeah, sorry, I'll draw somewhere here. Another concept is that if moon is only a point, okay, and say this is the earth, moon is only a point and this is nothing but earth, and if you have 2 points on the earth, 2 given points, you can decide these 2 points. This is in your control only. There are 2 points on the earth, let us say A and B. 2 points on the earth. This distance is something that is in your control. You can calculate this. I mean, measure this, not calculate. You can measure this. You can decide what these 2 points are. No. Now, let us say this distance is L. When you are standing at A, you point your instrument at moon. When you move towards B, the same instrument now points towards the moon. Now the alignment of the instrument might have changed, which means you should be able to calculate this angle theta. Okay, for that they use some other angles, like they have spectrometers and all such. They have other instruments called spectrometers, which can actually find very, very small angles. Okay, so the angle changes from some value to another value as we go from A to B, and we keep looking at the moon. If you can measure the difference in that angle as theta, then if this is R, L is equal to R theta is applicable there also. So if you can measure L and if you can measure theta, then you can calculate R. That is how you calculate distance between moon and the earth. Okay. So the distance between moon and the earth is only, why are you calculating this? Because it is too far, right? Because moon is so far that this distance and this distance are fairly equal only. So do not worry about it. That approximation we are doing there. Okay. So that is parallax method of measuring large distances. I hope you all understood. We did not do anything that is to be taught in the today's class. All doubts we have been clarifying. So I hope you understood. This is parallax method. Okay. So we shall continue with vectors from yesterday's class. Vectors, a small recap if you want. We studied laws of vectors addition. Laws of vector addition that we did. We had 3 laws of vector addition that we had discussed: triangle law, polygon law, parallelogram law. All statements and proofs, if you want, please go back to the yesterday's class. And we saw this formula: magnitude of resultant of 2 vectors, magnitude of A bar plus B bar is equal to square root of A bar plus, square root of A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta. Okay. Also, we did a couple of problems in which we also studied this. Magnitude of A bar minus B bar is equal to square root of A square plus B square plus 2AB cos of 180 degree minus theta. Okay. In fact, cos of 180 degree minus theta automatically becomes minus cos theta. So you can actually write A square plus B square minus 2AB cos theta. Magnitude of A bar minus B bar can also be written as root of A square plus B square minus 2AB cos theta. Okay. So if A bar and B bar are consecutive sides of a parallelogram, then this is one diagonal's length, this is the other diagonal's length. Very useful this is. Okay. And we also saw what the angle is made. This is A and this is B and this is theta and this is the resultant vector. You can check it out by you drawing the parallelogram. If this resultant vector A bar plus B bar makes a certain angle with B bar, let us say alpha, then we also saw a formula: tan alpha is equal to what? A sin theta divided by B plus A cos theta. So these things we had derived yesterday. So yes, that's all. Okay. Now today's class we are going to deal with something called resolution of vectors. We are going to deal with resolution of vectors. I'll define this. Resolution of vectors is writing the given vector as a sum of several vectors. If you are able to write the given vector as a sum of several vectors, it means you have resolved the vectors. Okay. Resolve is the noun, is a verb. Resolution is the noun involved. Resolution of vectors literally means splitting a vector or dividing a vector or writing the given vector as a sum of several vectors. Okay. If you can write A bar is equal to B bar plus C bar plus D bar, then you have resolved. Then you have resolved A bar into B bar plus C bar plus D bar. Okay, that's what it means. Also, B bar, comma C bar, comma D bar are called components of A bar. They are called components of A bar. Okay, so this is the definition. Now, if you can write A bar equal to B bar plus C bar plus D bar, then basically you have resolved A bar into sum of three vectors. Okay, and these three parts whose addition is A bar, they are called components of A bar. Just by looking at this definition, I'll ask some questions. Tell me the answers. Okay. Okay. Question is this: I can resolve a vector into any number of components. True or false? I can resolve a vector into any number of components. True or false? Most of you are saying true. Some of you are saying false also. Okay. So true is the correct answer. Okay. I should be able to resolve a vector into any number of. Just look at it. Look at the definition. Resolution is what? Resolution of a vector is nothing but writing the given vector as a sum of several vectors. That itself is a clue, right? How can you write a given vector as a sum of several vectors? We'll look at it later, but you should be able to write the given vector as a sum of several vectors. How many? Any number. You can try to write a given vector. Say, for example, you have a vector 3a bar. I can write 3a bar as a bar plus 2a bar. I can write 3a bar as 0.5 a bar plus 1.5 a bar plus 1 a bar. So I have written 3 a bar as the sum of three vectors now. I can write 3 a bar as confusingly as possible. See, I can write 3 a bar as a bar minus b bar plus a bar by 2 plus 3b bar by 2 plus 3a bar by 2 minus b bar by 2. Since, do you think I have planned this? Do you think I have already written this down and writing now? No, because I can write it in any form I want. Okay, 3a bar could be written as the sum of all these three vectors. I could have included some C bar or D bar, some other vector also in this, right? So in how many ways can I resolve a vector? Infinitely many. Okay, in how many ways can I resolve a vector? Infinitely many. Remember that always. We might not be doing it always, but remember it that we can resolve a vector into infinitely many possibilities. Okay, resolve. Okay, sorry. We can resolve a vector in an infinitely many ways. Okay, as a sum of any number of vectors. Okay, so this is a note. Okay, back again. Based on this definition of resolution of vectors, tell me, how many components can a vector have? How many components can a vector have? Very good. Infinitely many. It's not two, not three. See, I told you, I can resolve a vector in several ways. I can resolve a vector saying there are, I can write it as a sum of any number of vectors. And those parts that I write it as a sum of, I am writing a bar as b bar plus c bar plus d bar. Then I say b bar, comma, c bar, comma, d bar are called components of a bar. So if I am able to write a bar as b plus c plus d plus e, then d, c, d, e, all four will be components of a bar. In this case, a bar minus b bar, this one, they are all components of 3a bar. In fact, I can actually put a bracket here and say there are more components now. Right? Who's going to stop me? So how many components can I split a vector into? Infinitely many components. Understood? Okay. So that's a conceptual thing. There's a conceptual misunderstanding that people may have. That's why I'm trying to clear those doubts now. Okay. We can resolve a vector into infinitely many components, but we can. It's only about can, whether you can or not. That's all. In the syllabus, okay, in our syllabus, we will only resolve a vector into two components. Okay, that does not mean that vector can only be resolved into two components. I'm only saying in our syllabus, in our course, in most situations, in most questions that we come across, we will try to resolve a vector into two components only. Okay, understood or not? So that is not a limitation that arises from the concept of vectors. It is a limitation that we impose to ourselves. We are only going to resolve a vector into two components. Okay, which means if I say this is A bar and this is B bar, you know that if I can complete a parallelogram on this, then this diagonal is nothing but A bar plus B bar. Okay, or I can say the name of this diagonal as B bar. Diagonal, no, so D for diagonal. Let us say this is D bar. Can I say A bar and B bar are components of D bar? Can I say this or not? Yes or no? A bar and B bar are components of D bar. Can I say that or not? Reply in the chat. Can I, from this diagram, can I say that A bar and B bar are components of D bar? Yes, yes, I can say that. A bar and B bar are in fact components of D bar. Now, if I tell you, see, this is D bar, some vector D bar. If I ask you to resolve this into two vectors, what are you supposed to do? All you are supposed to do is just draw a parallelogram that contains this as a diagonal. How many parallelograms can you think of that way? See, I can draw a parallelogram like this, of which D bar is a diagonal. I can draw a parallelogram like this, of which D bar is a diagonal. I can draw a parallelogram like this, of which D bar is a diagonal. I can draw a parallelogram like this, of which D bar is a diagonal. See, basically what I'm trying to say is, even if you limit yourself, okay, even if you limit yourself into resolving a vector into only two components, even that can be done in infinite ways. Are you able to understand this concept or not? Resolving a vector can be done in infinite number of ways, more than two vectors also, but we will restrict ourselves to resolving a vector into only two components. But that also you can do it in infinite number of ways. Okay, but anyway, these are all parallelograms. You know that rectangle is only a case of parallelogram. Rectangle is only a specific case of a parallelogram. How many rectangles do you think can I draw from this parallelogram set? This is diagonal D bar. I'm asking you, how many rectangles can have this diagonal as a diagonal, this line as a diagonal? How many rectangles can have this straight line as a diagonal? 4, infinite, etc. I'll tell you how. I'll tell you how to draw a rectangle with this as a diagonal. Okay, you complete a circle around it. Having this diagonal, having this line as diameter, draw a circle. Okay, when you draw a circle, this portion on this side is a semicircle. This portion on the other is also a semicircle, because you know this is a diameter. And you know that angle in a semicircle is always how much? Very good, 90 degrees. So this is 90 degree. I can draw this also. This is also 90 degree. I can draw this way. This is also 90 degree. So, sorry, I could have drawn with different colors. Anyway, so this rectangle, if I complete, that's a diagonal. I can complete this rectangle also. I can complete this rectangle also. So see how many restrictions we are putting on ourselves. In how many ways can a vector be resolved? Infinitely many ways. Okay, let us say we can only resolve it into two components. In how many ways can it be done? Infinitely many ways. Okay, fine. Let us say that both components must be perpendicular to each other. In how many ways can I do that now? That is also infinitely many. That is also infinitely many. See what we are doing. Resolving a vector into two components that are perpendicular to each other. The components are perpendicular to each other. Even this can be done in infinitely many ways. Okay. How? If this is a diagonal, one of the rectangles you can think of is this. Maybe these are the two components, A bar and B bar. And if you construct a rectangle over this, then the common diagonal will be, co-initial diagonal will be the resultant. Am I right or not? So this is D bar equal to A bar plus B bar. This is just one rectangle. There can be other rectangles also. Just we saw like that. Okay. But how can I restrict? What rectangles should I draw now? I have to restrict one of these two vectors, this one or this one. If I restrict one of the lines of action, right? There are two components. If I restrict the line of action of one of those two components, then the answer will become 1, exactly 1. Okay. If I say I have a vector D bar, right? I have a vector D bar. I am asking you to resolve this vector into two components, two perpendicular components, in which one must lie on this line. In which one must lie on this line L. Okay. I am asking you to resolve a vector D bar into two perpendicular components in such a way that one of the components must lie on this line. Then you can only do it in one way, exactly one way. There's only one possibility now. Why? How can you do that? See, this has to be, you have to draw a rectangle, so drop a perpendicular from here. So this would be one of the sides of the rectangle. This would be the other side, and you have drawn a rectangle. That's the only possibility. So now one of them is along this. Understood or not? So in our syllabus, what we will do? In our syllabus, we will only do this, and not this actually. Sorry, not that. In our syllabus, we shall always resolve a vector into two perpendicular components. Components are perpendicular to each other. Two perpendicular components such that line of action of one of them is predefined or already known in the question. Okay, we will only do resolution of vectors like this, and this can only be done in one way. This will always give you a unique answer. It will not give you more than one answer. Understood? And because it forms a rectangle, these components, no, these components are called rectangular components of a vector. These components are called rectangular components of a vector. Okay, so I think in the yesterday's class we had actually done something like this. In a parallelogram question, sorry, in parallelogram question, if this is A bar and if this is B bar, yesterday's class we did this. We constructed a parallelogram, and the co-initial diagonal of these two vectors was nothing but their resultant, A bar plus B bar. And we had extended B bar, and we dropped the perpendicular from here, and we knew that this vector is of magnitude A only, and if this angle is theta, this angle is also theta, right? If this is A and this is theta, we wrote this is A sin theta, and we wrote this is A cos theta. Basically, this A sin theta and A cos theta and A sin theta are the components of A, because the lines are known. Okay, so we will discuss more on this tomorrow in the tomorrow's class. We will discuss more on this, and we will finish resolution of vectors also, and then we'll see how to write vectors in Cartesian representation, and then we'll move on with more problems. Okay, so for now we'll start the question. I have taken more time actually today, so yeah. Okay, So the whole session gets recorded as video. So if the voice is broken now, feels broken now, maybe in the video it will be clear. PDF file I'll share on Google Classroom. There you can go and read it. Okay. Next class is Murli sir's class. Is he already here? Okay, sir is already here. He'll continue with the next class. So I'll leave now. So see you. Bye. Okay, fine.